Lieutenant Commander Jack Murphy leaned against the cold metal wall outside the briefing room. 20 years in the Navy had taught him when to listen and when to look busy. Right now, listening was more important. The Phantom Dawn project could end the Drachnid War in weeks instead of decades, Admiral Patricia Collins said from inside the room. Her voice was low but clear. Jack's ears perked up. Phantom Dawn. He had heard whispers about it for months. A secret weapon or ship, something big that could turn the tide against the alien invaders. We can't rely on fairy tales, Admiral. Another voice responded. Our colonies are falling one by one. We need real solutions, not dreams. Jack shifted his weight, trying to hear more. The door suddenly slid open, and Admiral Collins stepped out. Her eyes narrowed when she saw him. Commander Murphy, eavesdropping doesn't suit you. Jack straightened his back. Sorry, Admiral. I was waiting for my new orders. Yes, your orders. She handed him a datapad. You're being reassigned to Europa Station, effective immediately. Jack stared at the pad in shock. Europa was a frozen moon of Jupiter, a remote outpost far from the action. It was where careers went to die. May I ask why, Admiral? I've served with distinction in 3 major battles, which is precisely why you should know better than to question orders. Her voice softened slightly. Sometimes, Commander, the most important battles aren't fought on the front lines. Before he could ask more questions, she walked away, leaving him with his transfer orders and more questions than answers. 3 days later, Jack stepped off the transport ship onto Europa Station. The low gravity made his steps bouncy despite the heavy boots. The air smelled recycled and stale. Lieutenant Commander Murphy, a woman in a captain's uniform, approached him. I'm Captain Susan Gray, your new commanding officer. Jack saluted. Reporting for duty, Captain. She returned the salute and led him through the station's narrow corridors. Your record is impressive, Murphy. I'm curious why they sent you to my little corner of the solar system. Jack chose his words carefully. I may have asked too many questions about something called Phantom Dawn. Captain Gray's step faltered for just a moment before she continued walking. I see. Well, we don't deal with phantoms here, Commander. Just ice, water, and keeping this station running. Your quarters are this way. That night, Jack couldn't sleep. The constant hum of the station's life support systems kept him awake, but so did the memory of Captain Gray's reaction. She knew something. In the mess hall the next morning, Jack sat alone with his coffee until a thin man in civilian clothes dropped into the seat across from him. You're the new guy, right? I'm Danny Wright, engineering consultant. He spoke quickly, his eyes darting around the room. Word is you got shipped here for asking about the thing we don't talk about. Jack leaned forward. What thing would that be? Danny lowered his voice. The impossible thing. The ship that can't exist. The one I helped build until they shut us down and said it was all just a dream. Jack's heart raced. You worked on Phantom Dawn. Danny's face went pale. He stood up abruptly. I shouldn't have said anything. Forget I mentioned it. He hurried away, leaving Jack alone with his cooling coffee. That afternoon, Jack received his first assignment, inspection of the outer ice shields. Boring, routine work. As he suited up for the spacewalk, he noticed Captain Gray watching him from across the airlock chamber. Commander, she approached him, voice low. A piece of advice. Europa is a quiet post. People who keep it quiet tend to live longer, healthier lives. Jack nodded slowly. Understood, Captain. But as he stepped into the airlock, he knew he couldn't let it go. Somewhere out there was a weapon, a ship, something that could save Earth's colonies from the Drachnid attacks. And somehow he was going to find it. The war wasn't going well. And a myth, Jack decided as the airlock cycled, might be humanity's only hope. A week passed on Europa Station. Jack spent his days performing routine maintenance and his nights searching for Danny Wright. The engineer seemed to be avoiding him. Jack finally cornered Danny in a maintenance tunnel on the lower level. The narrow space hummed with the sound of pumps moving water through the station's pipes. "We need to talk," Jack said. "About Phantom Dawn." Danny looked over his shoulder. "Keep your voice down. The walls have ears here." "Then let's go somewhere private." They found a small storage room filled with spare parts. Danny closed the door and turned to Jack. "I worked on the engine design. Something that could bend space, move faster than anything we've ever built." Danny's eyes shone with excitement. It wasn't just a ship, it was a revolution. "What happened to it?" Jack asked. "They said it wouldn't work, called it a fantasy. Shut everything down 3 years ago." Danny's voice cracked. "But that's not the truth. The math was solid. The prototype tests worked. So where is it now?" "I don't know. But strange supply shipments kept going somewhere, even after the project was officially dead." Danny pulled out a small data chip. "I've been tracking unusual power consumption across the solar system. There's a pattern." Jack took the chip. "This could get us both in serious trouble." "We're already in trouble. The Drachnids took Saturn colony last week. Earth could be next." Danny's hands shook. "I need to know if they finished building it. If they did, why aren't they using it to save lives?" Jack nodded. "I'll help you, but we need to be careful." That night, Jack used his security clearance to access the station's main computer. He plugged in Danny's chip and downloaded the data. Supply records showed unusual shipments to Neptune space, materials that didn't match any known military project. A message flashed on his screen. "Access unavqkhorized security ale or TED." Jack pulled the chip and hurried back to his quarters. He barely made it inside before Captain Gray knocked on his door. "Commander Murphy," she said when he opened it. "Care to explain why you were accessing classified shipping records at 200 hours? "Research, Captain. I'm trying to understand our supply chain better." She didn't believe him. Jack could see it in her eyes. "This is your only warning," she said. "Stop digging before you endanger yourself and others. That's an order." After she left, Jack sat on his bed, wondering what to do next. His computer chimed with an incoming message from an unknown sender. It read, "The ship exists. Neptune isn't where they keep it. Find me at these coordinates on Triton. Come alone. Architect." Below was a string of numbers, coordinates on Neptune's largest moon. Jack showed the message to Danny the next morning. "The architect." Danny whispered. "That's what they called the lead scientist. Dr. Olivia Bennett. She disappeared 6 months ago. You think this is really her?" "I don't know. But those coordinates point to an abandoned mining facility. It was used for early Phantom Dawn tests." Danny looked nervous. If anyone knows where the ship is, it's her. Jack made his decision. "We need a ship." "There's a maintenance shuttle scheduled for diagnostic runs tomorrow," Danny said. "I could alter the flight plan." "Do it, but keep it quiet." The next day, they boarded the shuttle under the pretense of routine maintenance. Jack's hands were steady as he took the controls, but his heart raced. If they were caught, it would mean court-martial. If the message was a trap, it could mean worse. "Setting course for Triton," Jack said. As the shuttle left Europa's orbit, Danny stared out the viewport at Jupiter's massive form. "What do you think we'll find there?" he asked. "Either answers," Jack replied, "or more questions." The small shuttle accelerated, carrying them toward Neptune's icy moon and whatever secrets waited there. The shuttle landed on Triton's icy surface with a soft thud. Outside, Neptune hung in the black sky like a blue giant eye watching them. Jack checked his oxygen levels one more time before opening the hatch. "Atmosphere is thin but breathable in the facility," Danny said, reading from his scanner. "We won't need full suits, just breathing masks." They stepped onto the frozen surface. Their boots crunched on nitrogen ice as they walked toward a dark opening in the moon's crust. The entrance to the abandoned mining facility loomed before them like a cave mouth. "I don't like this," Jack said. No guards, no security systems. It's too easy. Danny pointed his light into the darkness. Maybe there's nothing to guard. They entered the facility. Emergency lights still worked, casting a dim red glow over empty corridors. Their footsteps echoed as they moved deeper inside. "Look at these power readings," Danny whispered, checking his scanner. "This place is using enough energy to power a small city." "For what?" "There's nothing here." They found their answer in a large chamber at the center of the facility. The room was empty except for a small black box on a pedestal in the middle. Danny approached it carefully. "It's a holographic projector. Advanced model." He pressed a button on its side. The air above the box shimmered. Suddenly, they were standing beneath the massive form of a ship unlike anything Jack had ever seen. The hologram filled the room, showing every detail of the vessel's sleek design. "The Phantom Dawn," Danny breathed. They'd really built it. Jack walked around the hologram, studying its strange features. The ship had no visible engines, just smooth curves where propulsion systems should be. Its hull was covered in hexagonal plates that seemed to shift and change as he watched. "Phase shields," Danny explained, pointing. "They can block any weapon by shifting the ship partially out of our dimension." "And these?" Jack pointed to what looked like weapon mounts. "Quantum disruptors. They don't destroy targets. They disable them by altering their atomic structure temporarily." Danny's eyes were wide with wonder. "This isn't just a warship. It's a peacekeeping vessel." Jack found a control panel near the projector. There must be more information here. As he worked the controls, file after file appeared in the air around them. Blueprints, test results, crew recommendations. Jack began downloading it all to a portable drive. "We need to get this back to." A loud alarm cut him off. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber. "Security protocols activated," a computerized voice announced. "Unauthorized access detected." Metal doors slid shut at the chamber exits. From recessed panels in the walls, security drones emerged, their weapons aimed at Jack and Danny. "Run," Jack shouted, grabbing the drive. They sprinted for the nearest exit, ducking as energy beams cut through the air around them. Danny worked frantically at the sealed door's control panel. "Almost got it," he said. The door slid open halfway, then stuck. They squeezed through the gap as drones closed in behind them. In the corridor beyond, more drones appeared. "This way." Jack pulled Danny down a side passage. They ran through a maze of corridors, the drones always just behind them. As they rounded a corner, a beam struck Danny in the back. He fell with a cry of pain. Jack dragged him behind a storage container. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough," Danny gasped, his face pale. "You need to get out of here. Take the data. I'm not leaving you." Danny grabbed Jack's arm. "Listen to me. I helped design the core systems before they shut us down. The ship uses a quantum fold drive. It can travel anywhere instantly. But it was never about war. It was meant to protect colonies, not attack enemies." His breathing grew labored. "Find Dr. Bennett. Find the ship. It's our only hope." Jack hoisted Danny over his shoulder and ran for the exit, the sound of drones growing louder behind them. Jack's shuttle limped back to Europa Station, with warning lights flashing across the control panel. In the back, Danny lay on the floor, his breathing shallow. Jack had bandaged the wound as best he could, but Danny needed real medical help. As they approached the station, the radio crackled. "Unauthorized shuttle, you are ordered to dock at Bay 7 for immediate security processing," a stern voice commanded. Jack had no choice. He guided the damaged shuttle into the bay and powered down the engines. The moment the airlock opened, armed security officers rushed in. "Lieutenant Commander Murphy, you are under arrest for theft of military property and desertion," one of them said. "This man needs medical attention," Jack replied, nodding toward Danny. They took Danny away on a stretcher and led Jack to the brig. The cell was small and cold, with nothing but a bed and toilet. Jack sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. He had hidden the data drive in his boot before they searched him. But what good would it do now? Hours passed. Jack was dozing when the cell door slid open. He looked up, expecting Captain Gray. Instead, Admiral Patricia Collins stood there, her face like stone. "You've made quite a mess, Commander," she said, sitting on the only chair in the cell. "Admiral," Jack straightened. "I can explain." "Can you?" "You stole a shuttle, invaded a restricted facility, and nearly got yourself and civilian Wright killed. All for what? A ghost story about a magic ship." Jack met her gaze. "It's not a ghost story. We found proof. The Phantom Dawn exists." Something flickered across the Admiral's face. "Show me." Jack retrieved the data drive from his boot and handed it to her. She plugged it into her tablet and scrolled through the files in silence. "Where did you get this?" she finally asked. "Triton, an abandoned mining facility. There was a message from someone called the Architect." Admiral Collins closed her eyes briefly. "Olivia Bennett. Brilliant scientist. Too brilliant, perhaps. So it's true. The ship is real." It was real. Project Phantom Dawn began 8 years ago as an advanced defensive system. Dr. Bennett led the design team. The Admiral's voice was tired. 3 years ago, the Joint Chiefs decided the technologies were too theoretical, too expensive. They shut it down. But a small team kept working in secret. I authorized it. She looked at Jack directly. "We needed a miracle. The Drachnids were advancing faster than we could build conventional ships. What happened to it? Where is the ship now?" "That's the problem. 6 months ago, Dr. Bennett disappeared, along with all the final designs and several key components. We believe she completed the ship, but she hid it somewhere." Jack leaned forward. "Why would she do that?" "The Joint Chiefs wanted to modify the design, make it more aggressive." Bennett refused. She believed the ship's purpose was protection, not destruction. The cell door opened again. A medical officer entered. "How's Danny Wright?" Jack asked immediately. "Stable, but critical. He's asking for you." Admiral Collins stood. "Commander Murphy, you have a choice. You can face court-martial for your actions, or you can help us find the Phantom Dawn before it's too late." "Too late for what?" "Our intelligence suggests the Drachnids are planning a major assault on Mars. If they take Mars, Earth is next." Her expression was grim. "We need that ship." Jack thought of Danny, wounded because he believed in something. He thought of the colonies already lost. "I'll help you, but on one condition. When we find it, we use it as Dr. Bennett intended. To protect, not just to destroy." Admiral Collins nodded slowly. "If we find it at all, Commander, you'll be working with a small team off the books. No official support." "Who's on this team?" "Meet me in Medical Bay in 30 minutes. You'll find out then." She turned to leave, then paused. "And Murphy, if you're wrong about this ship, we've just wasted our last chance to save Mars." The cell door closed behind her, leaving Jack alone with the weight of millions of lives on his shoulders. Jack stood beside Danny's hospital bed. His friend was pale but awake. "They're letting you help find it?" Danny asked weakly. "Yes. Admiral Collins is putting together a team." Danny tried to sit up. "I should go with you." "You need to heal," Jack said, gently pushing him back down. "But I need your help. If Dr. Bennett hid the ship, where would she put it?" Danny thought for a moment. "She always talked about Saturn's rings, said they were the perfect hiding place, millions of ice chunks to hide among." The door opened and Admiral Collins walked in with 2 people Jack didn't recognize. "Commander Murphy, this is your team. Lieutenant Liam Rogers, intelligence specialist." She nodded toward a serious-looking man with short black hair, and Heather Martinez, systems expert. Heather was a short woman with bright eyes and a quick smile. "I worked on the Phantom Dawn computer systems until they shut us down. Dr. Bennett was my mentor." Do you know where she might have gone? Jack asked. I have some ideas, Heather said. Olivia was careful. She'd leave breadcrumbs only the right people could follow. Admiral Collins handed Jack a set of orders. You have the use of a small scout ship, the Raven. Find that ship before the Drachnids reach Mars. When is the attack expected? In 2 weeks, according to intelligence. Jack looked at his new team. We'd better get moving. The Raven was a sleek, fast ship built for stealth rather than comfort. As they left Europa's orbit, Heather set up her equipment in the small command center. I've been tracking unusual energy patterns throughout the system, she explained. Look at this. Her screen showed a map of the solar system with small dots of light near Saturn. These energy signatures match the Phantom Dawn's quantum core design, she said. They appear for a few seconds, then vanish, like something is jumping in and out of our dimension. Saturn's rings, Jack said. Danny was right. Liam frowned. The rings are huge. We could search for months and find nothing. Not if we know what to look for, Heather replied. She typed rapidly on her keyboard. I'm setting the scanners to look for traces of quantum particles. It's like looking for footprints in sand. They approached Saturn cautiously, staying hidden behind one of its smaller moons. The rings stretched out before them, billions of ice particles forming a vast, flat disk. I'm picking up something, Heather said suddenly. Sector 47B. It's faint, but it's there. Jack guided the Raven closer. To the naked eye, there was nothing but ice and rock. But the scanner showed something different. There's a distortion in the gravity field, Heather said. Like something big is there, but we can't see it. Cloaking technology, Liam murmured. Military's been working on it for years, but nothing this advanced. Jack brought the ship to a complete stop. How do we get inside if we can't see it? Heather pulled out a small device. Dr. Bennett gave me this before she disappeared, said I might need it someday. She pressed a button on the device. In front of them, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. A massive structure appeared where moments before there had been only empty space and ice. It was a shipyard, hidden among Saturn's rings. My God, Liam whispered. The shipyard was built into a large asteroid, with docking bays and construction arms extending outward. And in the largest bay, a ship waited. Unlike anything they had ever seen, it gleamed with a strange, shifting light that made it hard to look at directly. The U.S. Spectre, Heather said with awe in her voice. That's what she called it. Not Phantom Dawn. Spectre. How do we get aboard? Jack asked. Heather held up her device. This should grant us access. Dr. Bennett would have made sure of that. As they approached the hidden shipyard, alarms began to sound in the Raven's cockpit. We're picking up a massive energy surge from the direction of Mars, Liam reported, his face pale. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. It's the Drachnid fleet. Jack checked the date on his console. They're 3 days early. Mars isn't ready. They looked at the ghostly ship waiting in its berth. Their last hope. Their impossible hope. Let's go get our ship, Jack said. The Raven docked with the hidden shipyard. Jack, Liam, and Heather moved quickly through the empty corridors. No people, just automated systems keeping everything running. Where is everyone? Liam asked, looking around nervously. Dr. Bennett probably ran this place with minimal crew, Heather said. Less chance of being discovered. They reached a large airlock that connected to the U.S. Spectre. Heather placed her hand on a scanner beside the door. It glowed green, and the massive door slid open. Inside, the ship was dark except for dim emergency lighting. As they stepped onto the bridge, lights came on automatically. The control panels were unlike any Jack had seen before. No buttons or switches, just smooth surfaces that glowed with soft blue light. Welcome, Heather Martinez, a voice said from all around them. A hologram appeared in the center of the bridge, a woman in her 50s with short gray hair and intense eyes. Dr. Bennett, Heather whispered. If you are seeing this message, then you have found the Spectre, the hologram said. I had to hide the ship to prevent its misuse. The Spectre was not designed as a weapon of war, but as a shield for humanity. The hologram walked around the bridge, pointing to different stations. The ship has phase shield technology that can protect entire planets. Its quantum drive allows it to move anywhere in the solar system in seconds, but it is not meant to destroy our enemies. It is meant to protect our people. Jack stepped forward. Dr. Bennett, or whatever this is, the Drachnid fleet is heading to Mars right now. They're going to attack before Earth's forces can get there. We need this ship. The hologram turned to him. The ship's AI system can be activated by the command code sequence. Once activated, Atlas will evaluate the situation and determine the best course of action. Atlas? Liam asked. Advanced Tactical Logical Autonomous System, Heather explained. It's the ship's brain. The radio on Jack's belt crackled. Commander Murphy, this is Admiral Collins. Do you copy? Jack answered. We found it, Admiral. We're on board the Spectre now. Good. Your orders are to bring the ship back to Earth immediately for proper military command and control. Jack looked at the hologram of Dr. Bennett, still explaining the ship's systems. He looked at Heather, who was watching him with worried eyes. What if the AI won't let us use the ship as a weapon? Liam asked quietly. Jack made his decision. Admiral, we don't have time to bring it back to Earth. Mars will fall before we get there. We need to take the Spectre directly to Mars. Negative, Commander. That ship is too valuable to risk in combat without proper testing and military oversight. Return to Earth. That's an order. Jack turned to Heather. Can you activate Atlas? She nodded slowly. Yes, but once it's active, we might not have full control. The AI will follow its programming, to protect, not attack. Mars is a human colony, Jack said. Protecting it falls under that mission. Liam looked nervous. We'd be disobeying direct orders. That's mutiny. If Mars falls, Earth is next, Jack replied. Sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right. Heather took a deep breath and moved to the main console. She placed her palm on the surface and spoke clearly. Authorization. Bennett Protocol Epsilon. Activate Atlas. The ship hummed to life around them. Lights brightened, and systems came online. On the main view screen, a pulsing blue light appeared. Atlas is online. A calm, gender-neutral voice announced. How may I assist you? Jack stepped forward. Atlas, I'm Lieutenant Commander Jack Murphy. Mars is about to be attacked by a Drachnid fleet. Millions of people will die if we don't help them. I understand, Atlas replied. My primary directive is to protect human life. However, my systems are untested in combat conditions. Success cannot be guaranteed. Nothing in war is guaranteed, Jack said. Will you help us? There was a pause. Yes, Commander Murphy. Setting course for Mars. Quantum drive powering up. Heather looked at Jack. Once we do this, there's no going back. If the ship fails, we'll have no way to return to Earth. Jack sat in the captain's chair. If Mars falls, we might not have an Earth to return to anyway. Let's go save a planet. The Spectre emerged from its quantum jump near Mars. The red planet hung in space before them, and around it, chaos ruled. The Drachnid fleet had already arrived. Over 50 warships attacking the small defensive force protecting Mars. My God, Liam whispered as they watched through the main view screen. Half our ships are already gone. Jack turned to Atlas's pulsing blue light on the control panel. Can we help them? Analyzing situation, Atlas replied. Mars defense fleet at 30% strength. Drachnid landing craft detected on surface. Colony sectors 1 through 4 under attack. We need to stop those ships, Jack said. How? Phase shield technology can be extended to cover approximately 60% of Mars, Atlas said. This will prevent further landing parties and protect most populated areas. Do it, Jack ordered. The Spectre moved into position above Mars. On the hull, The hexagonal plates began to shift and glow with strange blue light. "Deploying phase shield," Atlas announced. From the ship, a wave of energy spread outward like ripples in water. It expanded until it covered most of Mars in a shimmering blue dome. On the surface, the Drachnid landing party suddenly found themselves cut off from their ships in orbit. "Shield deployed," Atlas said. "Drachnid weapons are ineffective against phase technology." On the view screen, they watched as enemy ships fired at the shield. Their weapons simply disappeared into the energy field without effect. "It's working," Heather said, amazement in her voice. "What about the enemy ships?" Jack asked. "Quantum weapons are online," Atlas replied. "These will not destroy enemy vessels, but will disable their systems temporarily." "Target the largest ships first," Jack ordered. The Spectre moved with impossible speed, appearing near a massive Drachnid cruiser. Beams of white light shot from the Spectre, hitting the enemy ship. Instead of explosions, the cruiser's lights flickered and went dark. "One vessel disabled," Atlas reported, moving to next target. Again and again, the Spectre jumped around the battlefield, disabling enemy ships. The remaining Earth vessels, seeing what was happening, rallied and joined the attack. "We're winning," Liam said, excitement in his voice. Then alarms blared throughout the Spectre. "Warning," Atlas announced. "Core system instability detected. Phase shield drawing excessive power." The ship shuddered beneath them. Lights flickered on the bridge. "What's happening?" Jack demanded. Heather was checking the engineering console. "The quantum core is unstable. It wasn't meant to maintain a shield this large for this long." "Options?" Jack asked. "We have two choices," Atlas said. "Withdraw and preserve ship functionality, or continue current operations until complete system failure." Estimated time to failure: 23 minutes. Jack looked at the view screen. The Earth ships were fighting hard, but without the Spectre's help, they would lose. On Mars, the shield was protecting millions of people. "If we pull back now, what happens to Mars?" Jack asked. "Drachnid forces would likely overrun remaining defenses within hours," Atlas replied. Jack turned to his team. "Heather, Liam, thoughts?" "This ship was built to protect people," Heather said quietly. "That's what Dr. Bennett wanted." Liam nodded. "We came this far. We can't back down now." Jack made his decision. "Atlas, continue operations, but focus on taking out their command ship. Without leadership, their attack might fall apart." "Acknowledged." Locating Drachnid command vessel. On the screen, a massive ship appeared at the back of the enemy fleet. It was twice the size of the others, with strange spikes protruding from its hull. "Target identified," Atlas said. "Warning: approaching this vessel will accelerate core destabilization." The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. "Do it," Jack ordered. "Get us close enough to disable that command ship." The Spectre jumped again, appearing directly in front of the enormous Drachnid vessel. Energy beams shot from both ships, connecting in space between them. "Core destabilization critical," Atlas warned. 14 minutes to system failure. Jack gripped the arms of his chair as the ship rocked around them. "Hold together," he whispered. "Just a little longer."